Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. As another year comes to a close, the world remains at a defining crossroads marked by shifting power equations, deepening geopolitical fault lines, economic anxieties and a global order under visible strain. In this turbulent international landscape, India's foreign policy was not just tested during the year gone by, it was actively exercised, shaped and asserted. This was a year when India stepped out with clarity and confidence, strengthening strategic partnerships across regions, deepening its engagement with countries in the global south, and shaping global conversations on trade, technology, energy, climate action, and security. Amid intensifying power rivalries, India remained firmly anchored in strategic autonomy, guided by national interest and its long-term vision. From sustained bilateral outreach to deeper strategic partnerships, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's foreign engagements in 2025 reflected India's evolving priorities, development with sustainability, growth with responsibility, and leadership with balance. In this special edition of Perspective, we look back at the year that was, India's diplomacy, its strategic choices, its global messaging, and what these choices tell us about India's place in a rapidly changing world. Joining me are three eminent guests. I'm delighted to welcome on this edition of Perspective Professor Shrikant Kondrapalli. He's professor at the Center for East Asian Studies, School of International Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. Professor, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the program. Joining us virtually is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former diplomat. Ambassador, always a pleasure to have you with us on our programs. And Professor Dr. Sriram Cholia, Dean of the Jindal School of International Affairs. Professor, delighted to have you with us on this edition of Perspective as well. Welcome to the program. So there are multiple aspects of India's foreign policy about which we will talk about in due course of the program. But to begin with, Professor Kondrapalli, how would you characterize India's foreign policy in the year 2025?
I think from turbulence, we learnt a lot and then stabilized the whole situation. One of the things is, of course, the August 27th tariffs imposed by the United States on India, 50% tariffs, and that was expected to affect the economy, but we bounced back. 7.2% growth rate in the quarter one and 8.2 in quarter two and then 7.4 in quarter three. So that should make it about 6.5, 6.6 for the whole year. That's an impressive growth rate, despite the headwinds in the. Our FDI has increased. Also, the kind of exports we have made is quite impressive. And I think in this turbulent, we have had the Operation Sindoor, which really is a major event in our history. We applied high technology and also preemptive, kind of shutdown to the conflict. Although it is in abeyance, the Operation Sindoor, yet I think the application of precision-guided munitions and the kind of response India had on the Pahalgam terror attacks, I think we have given a very clear picture on zero tolerance to terrorism, right, wherever it is emanating from. And I also think that the stabilization is also in the part of at the global level and regional level. The FTAs that we signed with UK, Oman and New Zealand, as well as the trade arrangements with Australia, with other countries are intact. ASEAN, South Korea, Japan and other countries. The IMEC project has not really taken off because of the conflict in West Asia, but we are also looking at the UAE as well as Israel FTA, in addition to the European Union FTA talks that have already commenced, and one with the GCC countries. So this should augur well for our economic growth rate, and which also means that this stabilization is important for us in order to project towards the global supply chains and so on. We have also had the space cooperation, space related activities quite impressive. We had 100th launch this January and the new launchers have been put in place. And we are making efforts for the manned spacecraft to the space. That means that even in technological sphere, there has been a lot of progress. So I think overall, we should be satisfied with the 2025 how it is ending. Of course, we have some turbulence in the neighborhood, but that should be managed in the future. As we keep on growing at 6 to 7% growth rate, that should also translate into attracting a number of neighboring countries in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the arrangements we make with BIMSTEC, with BBIN and other countries. So we should end the year with satisfaction, with especially in terms of the growth rates that we picked up despite the headwinds caused by the United States tariffs.
That's right. Despite the global complexities, the global headwinds, the regional tensions, which took a whole lot of our effort as well in the early part of the year 2025 is ending on a high note because of the strategic partnerships that we've had with countries in terms of how economic diplomacy has taken center stage in our outreach. We'll talk about all of these aspects, but Ambassador, your opening remark on, as the year draws to a close, what is the most significant achievement in terms of India's diplomacy that you would like to highlight?
Well, I think first we have to recall or remember and realize that 2025 has been a tremendously turbulent year globally. I mean, perhaps it's not in many decades that such a globally turbulent year has been seen, and many are talking about whether Third World War has already started. Just look at the two conflicts, the Ukraine conflict, the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and the Hamas-Israel conflict. I think this has led to, and they don't show any signs of, even though there's a peace plan being discussed for Ukraine and something that is supposed to be in place for Israel and Gaza, there is no evidence of the conflict and the turmoil ending. But I think, again, I would say that India's role in both of these as a peacemaker, as a person who's bringing sides together, who is willing to talk to both sides and focus on dialogue and diplomacy and not on conflict, calling for an end to conflict. This role of India has been recognized very much. And you know that Prime Minister Modi has been, and I would like to recall President Putin's visit to India very recently towards the end of the year, when it was an excellent visit, very strongly based on discussions on not only on the Ukraine conflict, but on other things. And President Zelensky has been in touch with our Prime Minister. So this aspect of India, and led by Prime Minister Modi, playing a big role in all conflicts, in all events in the world. I think this is very important. Now, even for us in our region, I think it has been a year of great conflict. Look at Operation Sindoor, the absolutely dastardly attacks on the innocent pilgrims, innocent tourists in Pahalgam. I mean, this was an unheard of kind of, again, breaking the peace in this cruel manner, drawing attention to religion in this manner, which is, was absolutely reacted to with people were aghast in India. And Operation Sindoor followed, was able to establish India's military and technological superiority in dealing with this. I think the worldwide, many people are now studying, how Operation Sindoor was conducted, how without even crossing the border, using technology, and how we were able to resist through our S-400s and other air defense systems, the attacks which Pakistan tried to launch on us, and how we in return, through the BrahMos missiles and others, were able to, and BrahMos, again, made in India with Russian technological cooperation, has been a tremendous pointer. This movement towards Atmanirbharta. I'm bringing together this because, this movement towards Atmanirbharta, our economic growth and development, is very much tied in with India's security in the world, with India's position in the world, and this interaction between, the global scenario, the Indian scenario, and India's Atmanirbharta move in defense has been playing a significant role in making the world realize India's strong position in the world. Economically, India now very soon going to be the third largest economy in the world. We already have crossed from the from the fifth, we become the fourth, and now very soon the third largest economy in the world. And the news about economic growth in this year has been very strong, and I would especially like to appreciate the importance of this role despite the situation in our neighborhood, despite Operation Sindoor. Operation Sindoor was such a success, but we took it so much in our stride. We continued that. We did not let Operation Sindoor in any way disorient or disorder the economic growth and the internal stability of the country, and that itself is very important. But then we have to also see there were other disruptive events in our neighborhood. I'm talking about Bangladesh, the regime change operation of July, August 2024, which has continued into this year, and the regime change operation in Nepal as well earlier this year. So for our neighborhood, while India continues to focus on developing relations with our neighbors, and even in Bangladesh, you could see that India from the very first day offered to continue the economic cooperation. We've been exercising a great deal of strategic restraint in our dealings with Bangladesh, and we offer to continue the cooperation. We have not restricted the trade, the goods flowing for the humanitarian needs of the people there. But from the Bangladesh side, we have seen that what is projected as a revolution, as a student spontaneous uprising, is not that at all. It's not been a revolution. It's not been spontaneous at all. It's not a students' uprising. It has been a meticulously designed regime change operation. And these are the words used by Mohammad Yunus himself, speaking in New York, at the when he went for the UNGA, speaking at the Global Clinton Initiative. He said, don't think it happened spontaneously. It was meticulously designed. And he introduced the mastermind, who is Mahfouz Alam, his own special assistant, who's well known as a member of the Hizb ut-Tahrir. So it is the attempt of the Islamist groups led by Jamaat-e-Islami, backed by Pakistan, and in turn backed by external powers. It is that attempt which has brought this regime change and forced Sheikh Hasina to come to India. But even every effort that India made to normalize and continue the economic cooperation with the new government of the day has not succeeded, because Mohammad Yunus has turned his back on continuing the cooperation. He's either suspended or changed or reversed economic cooperation aspects. All this has led to a complete deterioration in the economy of Bangladesh, which has been a big negative for them. But still, till today, the violence as we speak is continuing. The regime of Mohammad Yunus wanted to postpone elections for 4 years and bring in reforms, but the people insisted on early elections. But even the preparation for those elections, because they want to ban the Awami League from participating in those elections, they had banned the activities of the Awami League. This has led to its own internal turmoil. And the Islamist parties are trying to get the upper hand. We know there's been the killing of Osman Hadi, there's been the cruel attacks on the minorities in Bangladesh, the Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Sufis, and Ahmadiyyas, and the inhuman killing of Deepu Chandra Das just a few days ago. All this has shown that the instability in Bangladesh is a cause for serious worry.
Absolutely. This is a huge challenge that persists in our neighborhood. This is something that we are going to find perhaps a new way to deal with the problem, because the manner in which the violence is escalating, the manner in which the Hindus are being targeted in Bangladesh is something that is a huge cause of concern for India, and this will be a challenge in the coming year as well. We'll focus on some of the priorities and the challenges in the year 2026, but coming back to some of the significant gains that we made in the year 2025, which comes to a close. Professor Cholia, one of the defining features of our foreign policy in 2025 has been the centrality of economic diplomacy, something that Professor Kondapalli also spoke about. It's been marked by the conclusion of FTAs with the UK, with Oman. We finalized the FTA with New Zealand. Do these agreements together signal a structural shift of sorts in how India views trade as an economic tool? Not just as an economic tool, in fact, but as a more important strategic instrument of foreign policy, which has now taken centrality in the manner in which we deal with countries in different parts of the world.
Yes, Tina, I think 2025 was the year of resilience against adversity, as my co-panelists have been saying. And one of the features of this resilience has been diversification of partnerships in the economic realm, so as to reduce over dependence on any single market, given the resort to economic nationalism and protectionism and the trade wars unleashed by the US in particular. We have been on the lookout to fast forward many of these negotiations and to conclude them faster, quicker. And we have found willing partners on the other side who, of course, want access to the big and growing Indian market. For them, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we have 600, 700 million middle class, and with high economic growth, this is the big winner, especially for a country like the UK, for example. I mean, from their point of view, after the Brexit, this is the biggest single economic deal that they have entered into, this with India. So I think we have our market power, our purchasing power is a major attraction, and also a major negotiating card with these countries because they want access. And in return, our export profile is growing. So we have negotiated with a lot of these countries in ways that will enhance our exports, goods, and in the case of smaller countries, even services exports. So I think that way, the contribution of trade to our growth is quite high. And percentage of trade of GDP of India is 40 or more. So therefore, I think this is going to be driving our growth in the future, and we have really emphasized a lot of it. I think full marks to Dr. Jaishankar and his team in External Affairs Ministry, also Mr. Piyush Goyal and his team in the Commerce Ministry, because together we have really sewn together all these agreements. The biggest one of them all, the game changer is going to be with the European Union. We have the EU leadership coming for the Republic Day in January 2026 after the new year, and I think I have no doubt that we will even cross that barrier because the EU is going to be a near equal substitute of the US market for us. And on the basis of all that, of course, we will also conclude the bilateral trade agreement with the United States itself, which is not really an FTA, but simply trying to manage these tariffs that have been levied unfairly and unjustly on India earlier this year. So it shows that we are cognizant of our strengths, we are playing our cards, and in all these cases, the trust has been built up over a period of time. It's not like suddenly we woke up and said, okay, let's negotiate an FTA. We have been working on this for a while, and I think it shows inch by inch, year by year. 2024 is different from 25, different from 26 in that sense, because India's cumulative value in the eyes of our partners continues to grow. And as a result of which, we will also get more concessions from them in the give and take that is the norm for all these trade negotiations. And I think Professor Kondapalli also, and that was, a bit of a break. A couple of years ago, there was a dip. So now we are back on track, and with the reforms that have been launched domestically in our economy, I think Indian market will look up in a big way in 2026 going forward, and we are expecting a lot of inward FDI, even our stock markets. So we are expecting more foreign institutional investors to come in. There have been a lot of volatility there, but overall, I think the prospects are looking good. So we have harnessed our domestic stability and reforms in order to win a lot of major international agreements and pacts. And I think that shows the core strength of the country, because we are not just talking out of thin air. We are going to these negotiations and to these rounds of talks with concrete things to show on the ground. Our infrastructure, all these things, people are noticing, the upgrades that are happening across the country, and these will ultimately matter. So Modi government deserves full marks for combining the domestic strengths and showcasing them in the international arena, and thereby winning more friends and tighter partnerships.
Clearly, that confidence and that transformation in approach has been clearly noticed in this year gone by, in the face of global headwinds that we've already spoken about, but the resilience that India has shown in different aspects. You spoke about the diversification of partnerships, Professor. I'll take that question to you. We've seen that reflecting also in Prime Minister Modi's visits that he's undertaken in the year 2025 to countries across Africa, West Asia. It also includes countries in the Gulf. How do you interpret these diplomatic outreaches, not just as as an economic engagement event, but in the longer run for for actually making India as a long-term partner of choice? Has that effort been visible in the manner in which the Prime Minister has reached out to these countries and the manner in which we've expanded our partnership to newer areas of cooperation?
I think with the shocks that we faced with the Trump administration, especially reversing the 25-year-old phenomena from the nuclear policy, civil nuclear policy 1, 2, 3 in 2005-6. So going beyond this, we have diversified into the global South countries, and the G20 meeting in New Delhi has already configured African Union as a member of the G20, and so the trajectory was quite clear for us. And voice of the global South countries, the 3 summit meetings that we have conducted virtually, lays down the path for the visits to African countries, West Asia, the visit to Japan, where India secured some $68 billion of investment from Japan, as well as the Shinkansen, the high-speed railway project that Japan is trying to provide us with these technological inputs. So I think overall there has been a requirement of the focus on global South countries, partly because there is the economic engagement that has increased, as the other speakers have mentioned, as well as to diversify these partnerships. So this is a major factor. The United States has been a major factor, and our linking up with the global South is quite a natural choice for us, and hence these visits, I guess. But most importantly, as you mentioned, Tina, in your introductory remarks, that maintaining strategic autonomy, I think that is also very crucial. And so we opened up for Russia, China, and other countries. The border stability is one of the main features for us, requirements for us. And so the Kazan meeting in 2024, as well as the Tianjin visit by Prime Minister Modi to China in late August and early September. So these are the plans that we have had to stabilize the situation. And I think even though there are no concrete things on the table, apart from the reloads with Russia, nevertheless, that was very important signal that we gave to the United States, that the strategic autonomy will be upheld, as well as the Tianjin meeting photo op of the 3 leaders. That is also quite significant in terms of the messaging that we delivered to the United States, and hence the rethinking in the United States about that India is a natural friend. The other accolades that were mentioned by President Trump in his comments is an indicative of how the atmospherics have been changing in favor of India.
Absolutely. Ambassador, in fact, the Russian president's visit to India drew global attention. As Professor rightly said, it was significant in context of signaling, in context of India's strategic autonomy. But if I may ask you, what strategic value did his visit add in sort of meaningfully deepening the India-Russia partnership? It's a time-tested partnership. We have our partnership across a whole range of sectors. But in terms of taking it one notch higher, what is it that you assessed after this recent visit of the Russian president to India?
Well, I think the president of Russia, President Putin's visit was significant, firstly in the context of India's strategic autonomy, as Professor Kondapalli has said. This has been a steady feature of India's foreign policy. Earlier used to be called non-alignment, now it's what we define as strategic autonomy and multi-alignment.
Yes.
I think that's very, very important, because it is this which not only I think in a way ensures us against ups and downs in any particular relationship, but it also means that India is able to fulfill its national security objectives, its economic development objectives, in a multi-aligned way. If one aspect doesn't work, you go to the other, second and third aspects and achieve your objectives with other countries. So this gives us a great deal of flexibility, and I think that President Putin's visit has opened up 2 or 3 important aspects. One is, of course, on the defense sector, the continuing cooperation, the possibility of increased deals even on the stealth fighters, and the determination to continue the earlier deals and get the spares, etc. That is very important. Continuing of joint production, joint technological work, and the willingness of Russia to transfer technology to India. That was very, very significant, but that's been reaffirmed, reasserted, and that's very significant for India's Atmanirbharta, for India's defense and security requirements, that in times of crisis, in times of need, we don't have to depend on anybody, but we have our own production facilities thanks to transfer of technology from key countries. It's not only Russia, France has also announced some very significant transfer of technology deals with Safran and so on. So I think this is a very important aspect. Second aspect, I think, of the visit would be the economic opening up of the Russian market for India. I think this is significant because this again provides alternative supply chain, alternative markets, gives us access to a whole new market. The Russian market is very sophisticated, demands are very high, but there are a number of commodities that India is exporting and Russia is importing. They are the same commodity but done from different countries. So there's a great deal of potential, whether it is high value garments, whether it is gems and jewelry, so many other consumer goods that India could supply to Russia, and opening up of the market and ensuring this access is very important. So I think that is why I would really say that this visit was very significant. But I will say that a number of Prime Minister's outgoing visits also were very significant in this context of strategic autonomy, in this context of showing our partnership with many regions and individual countries of the world. Absolutely. Our Prime Minister's visit to the SCO summit, for example, in Tianjin, and his meetings with President Xi Jinping and President Putin again. And then on this visit, he also went to Japan. And that was very significant because I think the Japan-India relationship, it is already in a very strong position, but the new strategic commitments to each other and the commitments that we will continue with our cooperation with Japan, in the very same context of maritime security, the very same context of strengthening defense cooperation and technological cooperation and economic trade, is significant because Quad or no Quad, our relationship with Japan, our relationship with Australia, these will be very significant aspects of what is happening in our bilateral relationship. I'd like to just give you one example of Prime Minister's visits in 2025, which shows how a Prime Minister during his visits reaches out to different countries of the world, and how the global South is very, very important for him. As you know, during the G20 summit in India, we showed our importance of the global South by bringing in the African Union and so on. But now, for example, in July of this year, our Prime Minister, went to Africa and Latin America. He went to Ghana, he went to Trinidad Tobago, he went to Brazil, and then he went to Argentina, and then he went to Namibia, on the way back. So you had a whole, geographically, a huge expanse of miles covered, but significance of this in the importance it gives to the global South and the successful outcomes of the visit in each country, and how the Prime Minister was welcomed in these countries, the bilateral cooperation, the awards he received from so many of these countries, how they valued his visit, and how other countries have been waiting for Prime Minister's visit so that you can develop the bilateral relationship, develop the regional relationship, and the multilateral. So, Prime Minister,
we're seeing that country after country, that moral leadership that India has showcased in recent years is translating into tangible outcomes, and it's being acknowledged by these countries. The biggest reward for India is that it's being acknowledged by all of these countries with whom we are engaging in development partnership. The emphasis has been, Professor Cholia, on technology, on climate action, on issues of development, which India has rigged up not just during bilateral engagements, but at different multilateral fora as well. Do you think we've managed, through these issues, we've managed to reshape the traditional notions of power, diplomacy, and development?
Well, that's, I think, work in progress. But I think it will. One thing we have shown is in 2025 is, what I call a pivot to the self more than before. I mean, because there is a less of a cooperative dynamic and more of a conflicting dynamic around the world, especially involving major powers. So what we are trying to do is also, our external affairs minister has coined this three selves doctrine, self-reliance, self-protection, and self-confidence. We have shown those in equal measure and in different domains. And I think, diplomatically, surely our convening power has risen. We will be hosting in the new year very important BRICS summit with more than 10 members now. Earlier it was only 5. So that is a very significant diplomatic event that's coming up. Probably after the G20 summit of 2023, the one coming up in 26 will be very, very significant. And we are laying the groundwork for it by being an active participant in BRICS. And many people argue, how is it that, you are part of Quad and also BRICS, and these are two opposing coalitions or alliances? Well, that's how, we've been able to keep our foot in multiple camps and gain the benefits from all sides. And I think that's going to continue. So in that sense, we are indeed showing that, we are a kind of a unique power in the world. A country that one is becoming more self-reliant and less dependent on others. And two, one that is also, capable of engaging with different sides and maybe even helping to bring some conflicts to an end. So I think that's really, and even in the regional, positioning, people are saying a neighborhood is in flames. Yes, there's a lot of turmoil, but at the same time, we are certainly in our own way managing to sustain our influence in a lot of these neighboring countries against the odds. So regimes are collapsing like nine pins, but India is clawing its way back. I mean, Afghanistan in this year, 2025, in my view, the outreach and the opening to the Taliban-ruled Afghanistan was a very, very big move. And of course, we had always been engaging with them behind the scenes, but we made it open and big, and we also turned it to our advantage and to the disadvantage of Pakistan. So I think apart from Operation Sindoor, which involved kinetic measures, the heat on the western side of Pakistan has really risen across the Durand line. And India is fully supportive of the sovereignty of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a weak country relative to Pakistan. And, there needs to be some balance there and some balance of power. And if there are not just economic, but also military means by which we can help to equip the Afghans to withstand the Pakistani aerial attacks and incursions. I mean, the Pakistani politicians themselves are saying that if we oppose Indian attacks inside our territory, how are we carrying out attacks inside Afghan territory? So there is a problem there. And I think Pakistan is getting deeper and deeper into a quagmire. In that sense, I would say we have played our cards well. And even with Sri Lanka, with Maldives, with Nepal, all these countries where, in Maldives is another classic example where it was said that we had lost and China had won. But now we have turned the tables around through patient and persistent diplomacy and through our first responder and our ability to give aid as well as, other humanitarian relief and all these things. I think we are making a difference. And in the neighborhood also.
That's right. I think with the choices that we've made in this year, Professor Kondapalli, we've been able to send out strong messages to countries where development mattered. India has been a friend. To countries where we wanted to send a message against terrorism, we sent out a strong message. So it's it's been an assertive year. After what we can call it an eventful year for the manner in which we've sort of ducked the global uncertainties, but at the same time the regional challenges. Now, as we head into a new year, what do you see as the top foreign policy priorities? Will there be continuity? Will you see more kind of pragmatic approach to the manner in which we've reached out to the countries? Or will there be more transformative approaches in dealing with countries that we've so far held back?
I think the foreign policy perspective of India in 2026 should be on assisting India's economic growth rates. We need to maintain high economic growth rates. That is how we can circulate goods and services to the rest of the humanity. Number one. Number two, maintain stability and expand the neighborhood first policy. We began that in 2008, but more intensely since 2014. The sinews of this have to be expanded in terms of the infrastructure. We have done great things with Indian infrastructure. The 150 airports that we constructed, 15 metro stations for each of these cities in India, 37 kilometers of roads a day, and the 99.9% electrification of the tracks, railway tracks. We need to expand this further into the neighborhood in order to improve the connectivity projects. Third, of course, is the strategic autonomy and multi-alignment, as Ambassador Veena Sikri mentioned, and stability. That is very crucial for expanding our market. So the single focus of foreign policy has to be economic growth, economic growth, economic growth.
Okay, Ambassador, to wrap up the conversation, how would you look at the year 2026 in context of India's foreign policy? Professor has highlighted some of the domestic and the immediate neighborhood priorities, but in context of further deepening our partnerships with countries, in context of strengthening not just India's voice at multilateral institutions, but the whole of Global South, an endeavor that we've already been involved in, but most importantly in managing some complex relationships?
I think that this ability to manage complex relationships has been a very strong feature of Prime Minister Modi's leadership. Because of the multi-alignment, he is able to have the vision that, okay, there's a problem here, we are developing it there. So I think on the tariffs, for example, what a big blow it seemed to be, 50% tariffs and, this 25% completely discriminatory tariffs on India, because similar tariffs have not been placed on Russia or the EU, on China or the EU, etc. But India has been able to manage it remarkably, that our exports are growing. And that while exports to USA may have gone down, but exports to other markets are growing because we have faced the challenge. We said we have to be resilient, we have to build new supply chains, and we've done that. We have, a combination of the new FTAs which have been mentioned. I think they're very valuable because that the bilateral FTA mechanism seems to suit India's the pattern of trading much more, rather than being part of these multilateral FTAs, which leave a lot of grey areas and have been misused against the Indian market a lot. And I think that the way in which we have reversed any disadvantage is very valuable. And I think we have to be cognizant of the fact of two things: that India is now one of the world's largest consumer markets. Right. I think that's a strength of our economy, and that we have to leverage that. At the same time, I would say, as the manner in which we were able to meet the tariffs, even the restriction on the H-1B visas. Now, the technological companies themselves are coming to India, and $50 to $60 billion of investment has been promised in India. That if our IT experts cannot go, and AI experts, artificial intelligence experts cannot go to the USA for various restrictions, then these companies are saying, we are going to come and invest in India. And they've already announced their plans. And we've seen how the Indian market has welcomed investment. This is the Prime Minister has been able to keep the pace of reforms up to the mark, in tune with the interest of of attracting more and more foreign investment. And that is why, the entire Apple iPhone production which goes to the American market is made in India now, So there's a huge level of confidence because we have our demographics are very good at the moment. We have a working force which is very young, and at least for the next quarter century, 25, 30 years, it will remain like this. And so we have to, in this 25, 30 years, meet the objectives of Viksit Bharat in 2047, which is our Prime Minister's goal. And that is what we are moving toward. The Viksit Bharat goal brings in not only economic development, not only leveraging India's consumer market, but also building foreign policy relationships, building economic, trade, defense, and security relationships. Because being the biggest market, I want to say how, the resilience with which we came up, despite Operation Sindoor, despite the tariffs, despite the challenges in the neighborhood. And of course, as was just said by Professor Julia, that even with Afghanistan, we were able to convert that into an opportunity because of the meeting of the minds between India and Afghanistan right now.
And I think it's some of these trends, Ambassador, that you highlighted, which power our policy in a manner which has brought India to a position today that we are able to shape global policies. Professor Tolia, I'll take one last question from you on now that we are in a position where we can change the rules of the game, at least build the narrative in favor of countries in the global south. How do you look at the new year? Giving us more strength to move more decisively towards issues of technology partnerships, on issues of climate, on issues of sustainable development, something that matters to a lot of these developing economies today.
Yeah, we are also going to host one of the COP summits in the near future of the climate change. So I think our leadership, our vision, Prime Minister's mantra of a life, lifestyle for environment, all these will come to the fore. We have played a very strong hand in 2025 during the Belém COP30 summit, and we pushed very hard on behalf of the developing countries. So I think that those things are going to continue. And I just want to highlight one last thing, in the Indo-Pacific, with Japan and the US, we need to find, and with Australia, our Quad partners, we need to find, more concrete projects and deliver on the ground in this year. Because even though we are trying to normalize relations with China, the point is the Chinese juggernaut is just expanding voraciously, and they're going to eat up anything that appears on the table. So what we need to do really is to be able to also manage the China challenge. I think that will always remain a challenge for us. And in the coming year, we have to focus on how to do the counterbalancing. I mean, end of the day, there is no substitute to that, because otherwise they are, encroaching on our turf, and we need to beat that back, and we need to effectively also project power in the Indo-Pacific. And for that, I think we need the Quad summit to finally happen, the one that did not happen in 2025. We are expecting it in 2026, and that will be a major highlight of our diplomacy too.
Certainly. So there are many challenges, and managing relations with China will be a key priority in the coming year as well. Time allows us to take up only that much of the program today. Thank you once again, Professor Cholia, Professor Kondapalli, and Ambassador Sikri, for joining us, sharing your thoughts with us and our viewers about how eventful and assertive the year 2025 has been, but also about some of the immediate priorities that stand before India in terms of its foreign policy in the coming year. Thank you once again to you viewers for your time as well.